Luke Rogers joins us now. Lukey, Griff here. How are you?
Griff, how are you, buddy?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm well. Excited that we can talk some football. This is the worst time of the year, man.
It is. It's slow. It's drip. But I know you're like me. You're kind of a draft geek, and you look at all this stuff, and you see what's happening with everything going on. You probably didn't hear Ray Lewis talk about franchise quarterbacks, but obviously you share bloodlines with one. Jordan was really good. You follow the game. Just give me an opinion just on that phrase, franchise quarterback. Let's look at it from an NFL perspective, then we'll go to college. The Browns have tried to draft one 20 years in a row, it seems like. Still can't find one. But what's your opinion on that?
Well, I mean, it goes without saying the quarterback is the most important position on the field, Griff. I mean, the most obvious thing is that he's the player that touches the ball every play on offense. And a great quarterback is it's tough to find. I always break the quarterbacks in the NFL down in tiers. And if you don't have a tier one or even a tier one or a tier two quarterback, I would say tier one quarterbacks are the transcendental quarterbacks, the quarterbacks that lift the play of everyone around them. And the tier two would be guys that are serviceable, that can get the job done, that you need to build around in order to really be a winner. And the thing with these guys is they are so hard to find. I mean, any GM that gets it right 51% of the time is a good GM. The draft most often is a coin flip, and the problem with the draft in quarterbacks is the one thing you wish you could measure and you can't is a guy's ceiling, and you don't know if the guy has really topped out in college or if he's going to develop into a guy like a Russell Wilson, like an Aaron Rodgers, like a Tom Brady who was a 6th-round draft pick. I mean, you redraft those draft years, and everything changes. But those GMs you can't measure what a guy's got in his heart and what his ceiling is gonna look like. And listen, you can win a Super Bowl without a franchise quarterback, without an elite quarterback. The Ravens did it with Ray Lewis. They had a top flight defense, they had a run game, and they had Trent Dilfer and they had Joe Flacco. But I would say this is that we looked last year. What happened in the Super Bowl with the Eagles there's not anybody. No one's going to say Nick Foles is an elite quarterback. But just like Joe Flacco, the guy got hot and played like an elite quarterback for 4 games. And I really think it begs the argument that you've got to have a guy at that position playing at an elite level to win, or you've got to have an elite defense and an elite running game in order to win a championship. But the easiest route is to have a transcendental guy, to have a Brady, to have a Brees, to have a Rodgers, to have someone like Russell Wilson. Those guys, I would say, are tier 1 guys. Now, if you don't have those, and we saw how valuable Kirk Cousins was this offseason in free agency, and what was paid for Kirk Cousins, and I wouldn't say Kirk Cousins is a transcendent quarterback or even a tier 1 quarterback. The thing is, though, you could say he's a franchise guy because he plays well enough for those teams to win. And the problem is, if you're a team in the middle and you've got a guy that's just okay, you either have to scuttle the ship and hope you hit on one of those draft picks and hope that he is a guy that's a franchise-type, transcendental-type quarterback, or you stay with an average guy, a serviceable guy, and you try to build around him with weapons, with a defense, and hope that you can probably win that way. There's really only 2 ways to win the NFL. It's with a great defense or it's with a transcendent quarterback, in my mind.
All right, so your brother was one of those, right? You know this. You were around the dinner table with him. So he has to go JUCO. Then he goes to Cal, has a good career. The Packers take him, whatever, but he has to bide his time. Now look at him. So what was different about him? What is different from him and the others, besides arm talent and all that? I'm interested in the grind that it seems like he and Drew Brees and those guys have.
Well, I think you can connect a lot of dots with a lot of those guys that we would consider to be the elite and the tier 1 quarterbacks. It's Brady, it's Brees, it's Aaron, and all these guys were overlooked for whatever reason. I think that they, even with their successes, they continue to push and push themselves in their craft because they've always had a chip on their shoulder. For Aaron, it was no offers out of high school that were worth anything, so it was junior college, and then junior college found by accident, and then had to win the starting job at Cal, and then had to follow in the legends, shoes and footprints there with Brett Favre. Like he continually had to prove himself, and people had told him he wasn't good enough. He didn't have enough. Was never until this point in his career. I would say was never ever coddled or was ever was there any fanfare about him. For Brady, he was a 6th round draft pick. Brady had to grind it just to prove that he belonged on the team, and then when he got his shot, he took it and ran with it. Drew Brees was never big enough. In fact, San Diego let him walk when they brought in Phillip Rivers because they didn't think Drew was had the build or the arm or whatever you want to say to be the guy. And so you continue to grind, being told he was never big enough. Russell Wilson, same thing, not tall enough, not big enough, not a good enough passer to be an elite quarterback. And I'll give you this though. On Russell Wilson's a weird.
Let me stop you there because you just hit on something. You just named maybe the 4 most elite, and every one of them had chips on their shoulder. You haven't told me one that was 6'5", 240, and you know what I mean?
Well, I'd say Griff. Look at Ben Roethlisberger. I don't know if he still lands on tier 1, but he definitely was a guy. He's won multiple Super Bowls, and that guy went to Miami of Ohio. We're talking small school guy. Yes, he was a 1st round pick. Aaron was as well. But those guys he's from a small town in Ohio, went to a small school, wasn't heavily recruited, obviously went to Miami of Ohio. And then people wanted him to switch positions. It's in some ways coming out because he was so big, and he could tell you he wanted to play quarterback. It's what there's a drive for these guys to prove that they belong, and not only that, but they belong playing the position. And I think these guys have this quality about them where it's never good enough. Like Brady would tell you that winning the Super Bowls he's won is still not good enough. Like he can't walk away at this point because he thinks he can play better. And Aaron hasn't won enough Super Bowls, and Drew Brees at 30, 39, 40 years old thinks he can still be better. Those guys have a drive to continually prove the naysayers wrong. And I think it's not even that. It's not the outside voices for those guys. It's the inside voice. It says, you can be better than that. Oh, you played a good game, but there were still mistakes. They're all perfectionists when it comes to the craft of quarterbacking. And even their best days, they pick apart and say, I could have done that better. And I think that's what pushes them to be elite at the hardest position to play in sports.
Luke Rodgers, our guest here. All right, so let's relate it to college. Your brother was really good at Vanderbilt. You watch Alabama. You live in Nashville. What do you see when you see Jalen Hurts and Tua and the things? And we talked about it before you came on about how Nick Saban really hasn't had a franchise elite quarterback. He had Rohan Davey at LSU. He's had A.J. McCarron and John Parker Wilson and Jake Coker. And, Jalen Hurts won SEC Offensive Player of the Year, but I don't know if you'd call him franchise. So I don't think he knows what to do with a talent like Tua. I don't even know your opinion on Tua yet.
Dude, Tua's a special player. He really is. I think what he was able to do, at his age, at that spot in his football career, to step in on the biggest stage in college football and perform the way he did, he's a special player. And I would agree with you in saying that there hasn't been a talent like him to play the quarterback position at Alabama in his tenure and in Nick Saban's tenure. And I think that's going to be interesting to see. I think the one thing that, not being a Bama guy, Griff, from the outside looking in, is you look at this, and the 2 positions that I always say I don't understand why Saban can't get the best of the best is quarterback and kicker. And it's like, dude, you get the best players at every other position at Alabama, Saban. You get the best defenders, the best running back. You had Calvin Ridley, probably the best receiver coming out this year in the draft. You had Julio Jones. You get the best players at every position, it seems like, except for quarterback and kicker. And I don't know what the recruiting is with that, but I think he's got a guy for the first time in his coaching career that is a special player who has the ability to do something that Alabama hasn't seen at quarterback. And Alabama fans love Jalen Hurts because he's safe. He's a very safe, doesn't turn the ball over. He's a game manager, but he doesn't have that. I just don't think he has that special quality. Like he's good enough for that team to win and win big with the defense they've tried out there and with the running backs they have out there. And he makes, 10 to 15 throws a game and safe throws and able to make those. But to have a guy that, in Tua, who may, he's going to turn the ball over with a greater propensity than Jalen Hurts because, hey, this guy can throw the ball. And he's going to take chances. He's going to take chances that I don't think Jalen Hurts would take, but he's also going to make plays with his arm that you wouldn't see from Hurts. And I think that's what can kick this offense into another level. And it's going to be amazing to see what Alabama's able to do, because they know they're going to trot out, the best defense in college football again next year. And they have got a stable of unbelievable running backs, just besides who, doesn't matter who leaves. But now to have a quarterback that can make plays with his arm in a way that isn't just game managing. Now I love A.J. McCarron, and John Parker Wilson's one of my buddies. I love the guy. But those guys were game managers. That's kind of what he's always had. He's got a guy that said, hey, just don't turn it over. Just don't give our defense a short field, even though most of the time they can handle that. Just make enough throws and hand the ball off and don't fumble. Just don't make mistakes. And I think all of a sudden you've got a guy that can be electric and a playmaker, and we saw it in the national championship. And I think it's like, the sky's the limit's an old adage, but this guy has, I don't know where his ceiling is. And because he's so young, he's got the chance to be, maybe the best quarterback in the Saban era. And we're talking about a guy we've only seen, half of a football game from at the collegiate level. And I think that's so exciting. I'm excited to see what they're able to do with him on offense. And, Saban's a guy who can always bring in great coordinators and great coaches, because it's like the Patriots in the NFL. It's the Alabama way he does there. And so they get great coordinators and talent to come through there. And so he's going to have the top flight college coaching from a quarterback position, from an offensive scheme position. And I think he has a chance to be a very, very special player on one of the, on the premier and preeminent program in college football at Alabama.
Let me ask you something that I've had arguments with fans about, because one of the things people always bring up talking about Alabama quarterbacks, or anybody, he wins. They would say that about Aaron. Well, he's a winner. Okay, I get that. But you still have to make plays. And at the quarterback position, certainly, as you said, it's the most important position in football. But they don't play defense. They don't play special teams. So it helps if you have a playmaker there. And everybody talked about Jalen Hurts' winning record, 25-2 or whatever, which is fantastic. And certainly he has a great part to it. But I think quarterbacks get a little bit too much credit for that quote-unquote winning record. Because if you looked at that as the only criteria, then T. Martin at Tennessee was better than Peyton Manning, because his winning percentage was better, and they won a national title with him. But no idiot in the world would think T. Martin was a better quarterback than Peyton Manning.
Yeah, Griff, this is why I hate wins as a quarterback stat. It doesn't make sense. The only position on the field that's credited with, a win or a loss, which to me, you've got 21 other guys playing. So, I mean, why don't we give Von Miller wins? He basically won the Super Bowl for the Broncos, right? Super Bowl MVP. I mean, but he doesn't get a W. Peyton Manning gets that W, which doesn't make any sense to me. I hate that stat. It's so skewed. It's one of those things with statistics where you can use it, to prove a point if you have a point to prove. But, I mean, what about Dan Marino? Does that mean Dan Marino wasn't a good quarterback? No one's going to say, Super Bowl wins are attributed to quarterbacks, right? They've got rings. No one is going to say Trent Dilfer is a better quarterback than Dan Marino. And yet Trent Dilfer has a Super Bowl ring, and he's got one Super Bowl win because we give quarterbacks wins. That to me is ludicrous. You throw that out the window. It does not matter. And like you said, T. Martin and Peyton Manning is a great example. No one's going to ever confuse one for the other on the football field. What Peyton Manning does with the football and what he's able to do in the NFL is special. And T. Martin was an awesome college quarterback, but their skill sets are different. The way that they are able to manipulate a defense, the things they are able to do were completely different. And that's why I can't. Quarterback wins to me is the stupidest thing we do in football. It needs to be thrown out. And now that we fixed the catch rule, which just came out today,
right?
If we're gonna talk about, I mean, to me it's a baseball stat. It's one of those weird things where let's just put a stat on everything. It doesn't make any sense. Like comeback wins, if you have a comeback win from a quarterback, great, but somebody's got to catch that ball. Offensive lineman got to block. Everybody's got to do something. It shouldn't be the quarterback getting all the credit. In another sport, we love to give the quarterback all the props. So let's talk about them. They're the glamour. They're the cover boys of the sport. They're spokespersons of the sport, but it shorts the other 21 plus guys that do their jobs any given Saturday or Sunday. So to me, that doesn't matter. I don't know how many of those games Jalen Hurts is being accredited with a win, that the defense shut out the other team or held them to 10 points or whatever it is, or how many of those games the running backs had 200 yards. or 3 rushing touchdowns. It's so superfluous to everything. I just, that to me is nothing. That to me is a stupid stat, and it's an outlier. And you would never judge any quarter in the draft here. Let's take an example in the draft here. Like, we're talking about, I mean, look at Josh Rosen in UCLA season. No one is saying that, that he has less quarterback wins than whoever is, the kid
Mayfield. Then Baker Mayfield. They're not judging both of them.
Baker Mayfield. Yeah. Or, yeah, exactly. That it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. It's not immeasurable. And to me, it's not a stat that you would put any kind of credence into, especially when you think about the way that Alabama plays football. So yeah, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. I think what you look at the quarterback position here is who gives you the best chance to win. And I think you look at Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts is a good college quarterback, and a good game manager, but I don't see him as anything special. And what we see in Tua and our limited window on him, he is a special talent. And you got to play that guy, because that guy gives you the chance to do something transcendent or something greater with your offense. And I think Alabama's kind of been missing that, in the entire Saban tenure. And so it'll be interesting to see how he develops. I mean, because we're talking about a freshman. We never know how things are going to go. But all signs are pointing up to him being, a premier talent, especially in his class at the college level.